Before we begin, I want to say that today's how-to session is being brought to us by Apter Industries. Apter Industries puts convenience stores and travel plazas first. Their cleaning products are laser focused to help industry frontliners get cleaner stores with less work. Apter Industries directed the majority of their products throughout the pandemic to our stores in the convenience store industry. They are an incredibly reliable source. This longtime NAG supporter looks forward to showing off their products and their fabulous cleaning supplies to everyone at the NAG conference in March in La Jolla, California. So please stop by and put it on your calendar to visit our good friends at Apter Industries. Hello, and welcome to today's installment of the National Advisory Group's How-To series. I'm John Lofstock, Executive Director of the National Advisory Group and the editor of C-Store Decisions magazine. How-To is a monthly series of videos with industry experts that consists of insights that provide quick answers to many of the questions retailers have while solving everyday issues. Today, I'm proud to welcome Jessica Williams, and Jessica is the founder and CEO of Food Forward Thinking. Jessica has extensive retail experience, spending nearly 4 years as the fresh food product development manager at Thornton's Inc. in Kentucky, and 10 years at Yum Brands on product development at KFC. And I want to mention that Jessica will also be moderating our food service panel at the NAG conference in March in beautiful La Jolla, California. Just look at the background behind me now and you can see where we'll be. So with that, I'd like to welcome Jessica and thank you and thank our audience for joining us today. So Jessica, why don't we begin by you telling us a little bit about your experience in the food service industry and your company.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So I have a company that's called Food Forward Thinking. I am a consultancy. It is just me. I thought of the name Food Forward Thinking because I really think that thinking ahead is paramount to anything that we do as business owners. And I'm 100% all about food and beverage. In my role as a consultant, I work with convenience store chains, grocery stores, restaurants. I work with startups. I've worked with large chains too. And all about product development, whether it's coming up with ideas, rolling out new ideas, everything in between, with job aids, with margin calculation and cost and sourcing and commercializing and scaling up. That's what I spend my time doing. It's been a lot of fun.
You've worked on both the C-store side and the more of the fast food side. And convenience stores, especially a company like Thornton's, they've really made tremendous strides to elevate their food service game. But there's still a lot of work to be done, isn't there?
Sure, yes. And I'm very proud to have been a part of the Thornton's team. You're right. I think when you have chains in different parts of the country, like Wawa, like Quick Trip, both Quick Trips and Racetrack and Maverick across the country, showing that food and convenience stores can be really delicious, craveable, great value, super convenient. In my area in Kentucky and in our region, there really wasn't anybody doing that. So Thornton stepped up to be one of the very first that you could see food made right in the store and have a very memorable experience, great value, surprise people. It's not, since it hadn't been done before, it was sort of a forging the way, but I think it's been working really well for them, and we've seen a lot of competition come into the area. So yeah, it was a great start several years ago, and I think they've been continuing to make progress as well as others in the region too. So yeah, there's still a lot of work to do for sure.
And we were talking earlier, and that you had mentioned that there are really two main issues that C-stores really need to work with right now that'll help them elevate their game.
Okay, yes. And I think I won't say anything that will surprise anybody. Here are two issues that I'm aware of, that we're all aware of, especially going into this year. There is an unpredictable supply chain and there is unpredictable labor. Actually, you might even say it's very predictably low labor. Those are two issues that basically everyone knows will impact the food business. So I'm thinking about how can we address those issues in maybe a slightly different light than maybe we've thought about before.
In the chains that you're working with or talking to, have any of them, are they to the point where they need to adjust their menus or go to a lighter menu for either from a supply standpoint or from a labor standpoint to continue to execute?
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen advanced notice of some issues that would occur in the supply chain where a chain might be able to use an alternate ingredient to substitute for something, or go ahead and put planograms out in advance that show multiple facings of products that they can count on. I've seen a lot of good discussion between manufacturers and chains, manufacturers and distributor partners and chains, just being super upfront and just sharing what you do know, never over promising. I've seen a lot more under promising and then, oh, actually it's in stock early, would you like to have it? So lots of good conversation in the supply chain world that I'm seeing right now to help operators manage as best they can.
Okay. So you deal with a lot of with menu creation and helping retailers find the right mix for their customers. Tell us about a little bit about your role as a menu creator and helping C-stores.
Right. So I think our job is not only just to survive the situation out. Nobody gets a job as a category manager and they say, just do what you can to try to break even. Of course, we're all trying to do better than survive. We're actually trying to excel. And so the word that I hear a lot and I use a lot in my world is innovators or innovation. It's probably used too much. It's probably lost its edge. So in my role as a creator of menus, here's what I think about is just to kind of level set us, reframing innovation as really a way to do more with what you already have. It could be a twist on the familiar. It can be insight-driven adjustments and changes that meet needs and drive sales. So working with what you already have and building on it, that's something that we can do whether we're in a supply chain situation or not. But the word elevate keeps coming to mind and doing more with less.
Mm-hmm. So let's elaborate then on the elevate part of it. Put your creative hat on. What does elevate mean to you?
Okay, yeah, great question. What I mean by elevate is really moving fast from, say, floor 1 to floor 99, like an actual elevator, elevating. If moving from, you might have a great stay at the Holiday Inn, but what's it like at the Ritz-Carlton? That's totally different. It's a very big leap. Really moving from mediocre to unforgettable. Elevating food can be a series of incremental small steps and improvements. It could mean a giant leap toward improving the customer experience. I've thought about a few ways that you might elevate your food program, if you want me to walk through that.
Please, yeah.
Yeah, so if you think about Lunchables and moving to charcuterie boards, there is, I think, a good example of what elevating the menu might look like. I'm not saying get rid of Lunchables. They're fantastic. And if you're selling a lot of them, keep that. If they're moving well in your store, maybe you could check out small like bento boxes, higher end charcuterie boards. What I mean by that is salami, cheese, crackers, nuts, olives, dried fruit. Doesn't that sound like a really good lunch or snack for an adult? And let's not kid ourselves. We've all eaten Lunchables as adults, right? But I think we've all seen something like the Hillshire, lunch boards. It seems like a lot of different manufacturers are out there doing that themselves. I've seen C-stores doing them themselves as well, and really taking inspiration from grocery stores and what a grocery can put together. I think anybody who's selling beer or wine today could sell appetizers like, an olives, a cheese, crackers, nuts. That pairs really well with anything you might sell out of your beer cave.
I can tell you right now, if I take away one thing from this session, it's going to be how to pronounce charcuterie.
There we go. Okay. I'm glad I can be a help.
I butcher that word all the time. You mentioned supermarkets. Now, I know this is market driven, but I'm here in the Northeast and supermarkets are making a big splash with food service, the Whole Foods. I don't know whether it's driven by Whole Foods for other supermarket competitors, but they're getting into the hot tables. The grab and go food is back. Tremendous option at usually a pretty expensive price, $9.99, $10.99, $11.99 a pound. That gets tremendous volume with a lot of upsell. They'll have the coffee bar nearby. They'll have a bread selection nearby. That's probably not an option for all convenience stores, but I'm going off the innovation theme. That seems kind of innovative, and it seems like a way to grab a real widespread demographic.
Yeah, and I think if you ask your distributor partners what products might be available to compete with specific products, go take pictures, sneak pictures in at local grocery stores or competitors, and ask, how might I create this? What I have seen is there are vendors who will create them for you, packaged, labeled, dated, and maybe it's worth a try to bring it in. If it's something that you need to make on site, I know that there are tubs of say like pasta salad that you might just scoop out, put a lid on it, seal it up, and have a brand new product that might work for you. And as a slightly higher end, if you have a good dinner business, or end of the day, people get off work, they fuel up, they run in for a quick snack, they get 2 liters and they're getting alcohol, or those are the sort of occasions that might make sense to try something that might be like an appetizer or something like that. I think I've found that often convenience store distributors also supply groceries, and they may have smart pre-made products that you could bring in with pretty minimal labor, even salads, even wraps, even some choices like that.
Mm-hmm. And that was one of the things that we had mentioned previously, that suppliers can help in 2 areas, on maybe LTOs around breakfast or lunch on the sandwiches, or more of meal packaged options, and then local partners, whether it's partnering with a local brand or a supplier brand to bring something new to market. Those are two approaches you advocate for, I believe.
Absolutely. Elevating the breakfast lineup. And if you're doing really well with sausage biscuits, have you tried a pancake sausage sandwich, a French toast sandwich? Elevating that and taking it to maybe a new level. There are products out there that are, again, really easy to execute. You could make as a made to order, you could do as an LTO, with pretty minimal investment and risk, and just work at making the breakfast experience more appealing to your customers. And even if it doesn't drive, even if that's not your #1 seller, you'll probably see a boost in the overall category sales in that day part. Mm-hmm. You mentioned working with local vendors too. So there may be destination driving items. If you think about your town, your area, your region, what really stands out? Is there a super coffee vendor, a coffee shop that's just killing it down the road? Maybe you could partner with them and actually sell some of their ground coffee at your location, and be an extra outlet for a small startup coffee company. They may really appreciate being asked that. Of course, if you're part of a chain, you probably want to work with your legal team, with your marketing team, to get some agreements in place. But I think thinking outside the box, what really makes our area interesting? Is it a bakery, a candy shop? Is it a cheese curd manufacturer? Is it candles? But taking advantage of that direct store delivery scenario and the kind of fire that a small business owner might have to come and stock your shelves every day or every couple of days for you, and offer something that's harder to find, or that people are coming to your market for. Maybe just a new way, a spin on same old, but move it up to elevate it to like a local legend's location.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny you mention that. I visited a chain called Cliff's Local Markets in upstate New York not too long ago, and they have a Dunkin' in their store, but they sell packaged coffee to a local coffee shop, and they said they're just killing it. The brand is well known in the area, and they move a lot of bags. So that kind of affirms everything that you're saying. And one follow up to that: the marketing of everything. Like Quick Check here in New Jersey, they are now marketing a new meatloaf sandwich, and they're calling it the world's greatest meatloaf sandwich. So you walk in, there are door clings, there are spots on the in-store radio. I mean, who doesn't want to try the world's greatest anything? So the marketing of food seems to be very important these days as well.
Oh yeah, and if it's part of the Quick Check branding, and I know you've had Amanda Szymanski on, she's one of my favorite people. I would trust that if they say it's the world's greatest meatloaf, it probably is worth trying. Yeah.
I'm sold. You can bet the customer. Okay, so now we've discussed the labor shortage, we've discussed the supply shortage. How do you do more with less? That sounds like an impossible task.
All right. I mean, there is a lot to do for those who are willing and able to do it. It's not going to get any easier. So again, working with what we have, doing more with less, elevating even your messaging. I've seen, who hasn't seen lately, sorry, out of stock. Okay, that's unfortunate. That's good communication. Thanks for letting me know. But what if it said, we have lots of this, even if not with a sign, but if you have facings that are empty and it just constantly says, sorry, out of stock, sorry, out of stock, that is a disappointing message to deliver. We can elevate the experience of the customer by giving them lots of facings of something that they really do like, or like I said earlier, you know, something brand new that maybe they'd never seen before. Now is a good time to stay front and faced with what you can do right now. But yeah, sorry, out of stock is just not an elevated message. We can do more. So doing more with what you actually have.
And how about on the hiring front? Now that is a tough nut to crack right now. There are so many stores with competition from the Amazons of the world that really are struggling to fill those frontline positions.
Oh yeah.
What can you do?
I wish I had all the answers to that question. You most likely have a now hiring sign somewhere in your store. Somehow you're messaging that right now. What if the message was, ask me why I work here? And it was a button or a shirt or a picture of somebody. Now that sounds really risky, probably. What if that does sound risky? You know, maybe ask why. Why wouldn't I want a customer to ask someone who works here why you work here? If that doesn't sound like a good idea in your scenario, then maybe ask why. Why is that? Is there anything that you can communicate that makes you a better place to work than the next door down that's also hiring and everywhere else that's hiring? Are there benefits that you can tout? Is there a path to leadership? Is there flexibility with scheduling? I know that you're not probably fully staffed in any location, but is there anything else that you can say besides now hiring that might elevate the message that you have a great place to work?
And according to retail, all the HR experts that I talk to, when employees tout the benefits of working at a specific company, it's very powerful, and it's often helps to convert a potential employee into becoming an employee. So I think you're spot on with what you're saying. That and both the path to leadership and any kind of benefits or signing bonuses. Even though I do know that some people don't want to offer signing bonuses now because of the flight risk, but when you have the competition such as I think Amazon's offering, exorbitant signing bonuses and a high starting wage, it's tough to compete with.
Right. Well, and you may in fact, I didn't mention anything about extra cash because I assume that none of us have that to offer. But what can you offer? If you're a shopper were able to ask an employee in your store, hey, why do you work here? You could work anywhere right now. What if they said, my kid's school schedule is really important to me and this job allows me to work around that. Or I have a second job and they're willing to let me work third shift because that works best for me. I mean, what if the answer were something like that? Or what if it were, hey, I didn't know if I was going to like it, but actually I'm an assistant manager now. I'm on my way up to being manager. They told me in 6 months I could be there. What if that was the answer? How different would that be? And I would love to hear more stories like that. If you're a company that has stories like that, now is the right time to get them out there.
And I think you mentioned a great point with the flexible scheduling. I think this industry has showed over and over that retirees, getting them to work that 6 to 10 shift, or maybe just a 6 to 9 shift, even 2 hours, 6 to 8 shift. They never miss a day. They're very responsible. They do a good job. And that's it's a key morning day part to get the coffee up and running, to get the breakfast sandwiches prepared, etc. So it's a attractive draw for them as well.
Sure. And are you looking to bring in really kind people who are very dependable into your place? Or are you looking to find somebody who's in and out, trying to, make sure that they, grab the cash and they run to the next one? So, I think you start to attract the sort of staff that you're looking to hire based on the sort of messaging that you put out there for them before they even start there.
Sure. And training, I would imagine training is also important, whether on the food service side, you get them serve safe trained. It really just boosts their resume and helps them be a more attractive employee and candidate.
It absolutely does. And that working with what you already have, even from creating job aids and planograms, anything that you have that's not up to date right now, going back to basics, I think is an important part of how we can spend our time right now, working with what we have. Whether you have an Excel sheet that you're working through or something more sophisticated than that, whether you have a training department or it's just you, those are the sort of things that we can do now, working with what we have to communicate and make sure everybody has the latest and greatest materials, that you're sending them out monthly or quarterly, whatever it kind of looks like for you. Make sure it's available online and communicating that. That is, one other aspect of working with what you have that is valuable at this moment, I believe.
And just to piggyback on that too, actually train and preach hospitality, right? You see the Chick-fil-A's and the Quick Trip with a Q and the Quick Trip with a K that greet people, that say hello, that say my pleasure. If you can train your staff that you do, your core staff that you do have, you won't lose customers, because who doesn't like to be appreciated as a customer? Who doesn't like to be appreciated when you come to the store and acknowledged and thanked?
Yeah, there is one chain I know that has obviously trained everyone at the register to always greet a person who walks in the door. It is consistent across every location, and everyone feels known. You feel seen. There is never a communication barrier that exists from the moment that you step foot into the door. It literally takes no extra time or cost, and it stands out from the competition in a very big way.
I agree.
And that's actual hospitality. We talk about hospitality. We're begging our team members to smile in some cases. I understand that. But saying hello when somebody walks in the door is literally free. It takes maybe training, but then you get really used to it. I think somebody in the store is always making sure that the person walking in is greeted, and it does stand out. It is not just we are staffed. It says we have hospitality. That's elevating. Sure.
And for the customer, it's a great message. It shows you're valued, you're acknowledged, you're appreciated, and it is a competitive difference as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I have to think it helps cut down on theft as well. You're being watched. They saw you.
100. I was going to mention that 100%. Studies show that if a criminal or a would-be criminal or someone with bad intentions walk through a door and someone acknowledges them, they're going to turn around and walk out. So
there you go.
Good point. All right. So then one of the other things you mentioned, the third point, was taking a back seat. So why don't you explain what you mean by that?
Okay. Now this might be controversial advice. Okay. I know what it looks like as a category manager for food and beverage. You sort of compete for space across signs and in marketing. I would ask what it might look like. Just consider it, and please don't turn off the podcast just yet, but just consider it. giving your marketing space to other categories that may drive more customers into your locations. The truth is that tobacco, fuel, lottery often do drive customers to your site. So strategically speaking about food and beverages on valuable real estate at your site may be of more value to you and your overall category and your overall sales than if you promoted food and beverage off site. Places like loyalty messaging, emails, billboards, radio. I know if you have dedicated space for food and beverage out there, it would be really a difficult thing to say, actually, does fuel need that? Do we need to be talking about, any other category right now that might drive customers actually to the site? And then we talk about the delicious food and beverage. So I understand that it's controversial, but I have also seen it work in the spirit of improving overall sales and bringing more customers to the store.
I love it. And, while you were saying that, there's something we hadn't discussed earlier. So I'm going to kind of put you on the spot for a second. I apologize in advance. Why hasn't ordering at the pump taken off? Ordering on apps and phones has taken off. Why did ordering at the pump and capturing the fuel customer and driving them into the store, why hasn't that worked in your opinion?
I think it's partly just a technology, issue. If you have touchscreens for self-ordering kiosks, placing one of those at all 14 pumps outside may just be not only a technical challenge, but a high cost. I think it's a good question. I've heard the question many times out there. And I think when you push people toward ordering through their app or through even making a phone call or ordering online, I think there is an issue with how clean it feels when you're out there. You touch a gas pump, even if you have hand sanitizer and gloves and everything under the sun to keep you safe from COVID, you still don't feel clean when you're out there getting food. So I don't know. I have to think that it's more of a technology and cost issue than anything else. I would love to see somebody do that, even on a small scale, even on certain pumps, like these are the food pumps. Maybe they even bring it out to you and you don't even have to go in. I don't know.
That's exactly what I was thinking, because this COVID, that you probably heard of this COVID thing that's going on. We see curbside pickup, we see mobile ordering apps. So we kind of got there anyway, but the pump thing didn't work. And then the delivery to the pumps didn't seem to catch on. But now it all seems kind of obvious, like, oh, why weren't we doing this?
Yeah, and I think there could be too, a potential for, I've seen sampling at the pumps. I know you've probably talked to Jerry Weiner. He's huge on sampling in any scenario, and at pumps, I pushed against it as a manager of food for a very long time for safety reasons, because it's not going to be exactly the same. So if you were going to encourage food ordering at the pumps, maybe you could do it as part of a sampling program where you go out and say, here's a sample, and if you'd like, I can, ring this up for you now and get you a full-size version of this burrito or this sandwich, whatever it might be. I think it's going to take people to do it in the end. I don't know how appealing touching those little buttons are to anybody that you have to touch, let alone some that, you could just walk inside and get it. So I don't know, just a couple of ideas there.
So it's funny, by the way, as an aside, yesterday was, as we record this, yesterday was Jerry's birthday, and I actually spoke to him for the first time in about a year. So you brought that up. Mr. Mayor, if you're listening, Jerry, belated, again, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Jerry. I could say to him that he is like the godfather of convenience food service, and he calls me kid. Hey, kid. And I just love it. I just adore him. He's awesome.
I call him Mr. Mayor, just Mr. Mayor, the mayor. The mayor
that makes sense.
All right. So are there, what are the takeaways? If you had to give our audience just a few takeaways on, how to be great at food service, what would they be?
I think one is keep your head up. There is good news out there. Think on that word innovate and how you might retrofit some of your ideas or things that have worked in the past, it may not work exactly the same way now due to supply chain, due to labor, but how can you build on what has worked in the past? What can you do to do more with less? Those are the sort of the phrases that come to mind for me. Elevate, innovate, do more with less.
Okay, I want to thank you, Jessica, and I really do want to tout your session coming up at the NAG conference, where you will have a great panel featuring Thornton's, Wawa, and new chain Kirby's, which is the food service direction being led by Tony Sparks, an industry veteran and a good friend. So to join our conference, visit www.nagconvenience.com. And to learn more about Jessica and Food Forward, visit foodforwardthinking.com. So I want to thank again our guest, Jessica Williams, and I want to thank all of you for tuning in today. We look forward to seeing you both at the NAG conference and on a future session. Have a good day, everyone.